then you get Tom and
Chestnut and Renee Ann. Yeah, on Renee Ann? Really? Oh, Rachel, yeah, okay, So the Rachel and Renee Ann? Which corner going in? This one or this one?
So Renee and Rachel, this one. So I live there and then
I'm the second one on the left.
and you have your resident.
Yeah,
I've lived here like 30 something. Lived in 65. I've been down. I've been here since I was 18.
Yeah,
I grew up in Grass Valley.
I grew up in Vancouver. I moved up to Sacramento.
So these are the same.
This is 2. Yeah, but one's bigger.
Are these the same?
Okay. More than one. You should only have one.
Somebody else to take you. When I come in, I want to make sure exactly the same.
You've got a special use permit.
Who's that? Let me double check.
Back count.
Pedestrian activated, and you've got the one towards the gas.
Yeah. I don't know if
Right, I've been to one of them.
And this is going to be a long night, so we're going to use some of our tools that we have in our bag to kind of keep everything going smoothly so we get home in a reasonable time. So I'm Bob Crawford, or Robert Crawford. I'm the chair. We have some new people here today, so I don't know them either. So we're going to have everybody introduce themselves. And like I said, I'm the chair. I've been on the CPAC. My original time was in 1996. And I've been mostly on the CPAC ever since then, with a couple of years that I took off when my wife was sick. So I like punishment, and I get it every night. So anyway, so let's start down here at this end, and we'll have you give your name and a little bit of background.
Good evening, my name is Mark Hecky. I've lived and owned my home in Orangevale for 20 years. All my kids went through all the local schools. I had 3 kids graduate from CASA. Very tied to the community. My background's in planning, and I've been on this board for about a year and a half.
I guess I should give a little background on mine. I've been in Orangevale since 1975, and my kids have also gone through CASA and all the local schools. And they have all moved away, but I haven't figured out how to move away yet, so here I am. Anyway, so been part of the community for a long time, and do appreciate the turnout that we have. I hope all of you would turn out like this all the time. It would be really great. So off we go today. The agenda is a little different. We have 2 items that we have to vote on, but they're mingled together as part of this whole project. So one is the actual project of the 7-Eleven at the Wild Sports Corner, and the other one is the permit to sell alcohol. And that's separate, 2 separate functions. But of course they're mingled together is how we're going to do this. So given those 2 things, we're going to have to kind of separate out, if you guys can do that, separate out your comments based on those 2 kind of topics. So we're going to have one as the project gets presented, and then we'll talk about that. Then we'll have the other one, we'll talk about the permit for the alcohol as a separate item. So I know you guys got comments in here. So when you make your comments, we're going to have comments on the project first. So anything that's the alcohol related part, don't bring that up. Wait for the next part, okay? So, you know, just focus on what we're doing with the project.
Do you need to sign up ahead of time to talk?
You do. Thank you. There's a little piece of paper somewhere back there in the corner. And you fill those out and you ask what you want to speak on, item 1 or item 2. There's only 2 things on the agenda. So, okay?
Because we're separating them out, and we only wrote down 1, and we talked about 2.
Well, like right now,
One and two.
I just got 1 and 2 on here, so I'm going to call you. If this is you, I'm going to call you. And this is Sharon, that's not you. I know this one. And so I'm going to call you, but then I want you only to talk about item 1. Okay? So,
If we say something, can you add us to 2 also then?
Yes, yes, we'll turn around and just out.
okay. All right, guys. Hey.
Can I ask a question? Why is the gas station included with the building itself? Is there nothing that would separate the business and the gas station portion of this?
No, the gas station is part of the project.
Thank you.
Okay, can you clarify?
But wait, let's just get, you know, let's have the project people present the project, and then go, clear up maybe some of the questions, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and who do we have?
Do you want a staff report first?
No, I want you guys to go first.
Cool. Great. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I'm Brian Holloway, Holloway Land Company, representing Guggenheim Real Estate Development and 7-Eleven, the two projects before you tonight. I have Jesse Kent here from Guggenheim, the developer, Kim Barnett from the architect and engineering firm, and Tom Searcy from 7-Eleven. And I'm going to have Tom come up at the end of my little presentation and tell you a little bit about 7-Eleven. There was also a handout that I gave to each of you that kind of summarizes the project so that you don't have to hear it all from me. It's kind of all there. And I wanted to talk to a couple of the items for tonight. First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to have a workshop about a little more than 6 months ago. Mostly we heard from the community then sort of two things. One was, what's the community benefit? And we really prefer something else. You know, it was a beloved store that was there, Wild Sports. Unfortunately, it went away, and the community has ideas of what ought to be there, but unfortunately for the last couple of years, none of those ideas have ever stepped up to acquire the property. And the other thing about use is, we also heard that they didn't like the 7-Eleven. But the thing I wanted to remind you is that under the general commercial zone, the 7-Eleven is allowed by right. It's a retail use, it's allowed in this zone by right. The reason we're here tonight is because the extended hours of a retail business like 7-Eleven and the alcohol and the I think the other item, the gasoline sales, those trigger the use permit and the letter of public convenience and necessity, which we'll all refer to as PCN. I'm sure you've heard those before. Those are the items that why those two items are here tonight. So the 7-Eleven's allowed by right. It's the gasoline sales, the alcohol was driving the PCN, and the hours beyond 11 o'clock that are reason that the conditional use permit is before you tonight. We also heard, as I mentioned, about what's the community benefit, and that's something that we really took to heart over the last few months. We heard, you know, maybe something like a welcome to Orangevale sign kind of thing. And so we've taken a stab at putting that kind of community monument at this important corner. And that's what the community said, was this is an important corner. We talked about co-branding with other retail kinds of uses, but we couldn't find anybody that was interested in co-branding, except for food trucks. You know, maybe some food trucks would be interested, but no other retailers were interested. What we did come up with was, because we had extra land with this site, the site's actually bigger than what the 7-Eleven needs to be. What we came up with is a dedication from 7-Eleven, from Guggenheim, to the community of a parcel of land that fronts on Greenback Lane, right next to this business, that would be for the purpose of community to put something there. You could fit a small, a mini sheriff's substation there. They've already leased a substation elsewhere in the community, but as things expand, things grow, you could put a smaller one there, or they could move there. We also looked at the idea of potentially a library, but Orangevale's new library has new space, but potentially move to this location, or a mobile library might be important. The other thing is, we took a look at the site, and what we're looking at is this particular parcel right here fronting on Greenback. The other thing that we looked at is, you know, what could the community put there? And the community would have a free site, and we actually did a plan where we actually were able to put on the site a small office building with associated parking, and that office building could be for the community to do whatever they want. It could be a meeting room for all the nonprofits and all the community groups in town. All kinds of service clubs could go there. Maybe the Chamber of Commerce would want to have their offices there and have community meetings. So we thought, a dedicated piece of land available to the community to build on. And that dedication would be for free. Here's what we found. We haven't been able to find anyone who's willing to take ownership of the property. It would probably need to be some kind of a non-profit in the community, but if we could find someone, right now we can't deed it to anybody because you got to deed it to somebody, and we haven't found anybody yet interested in taking on the ownership of this property. Maybe somebody in the audience has an idea.
I'll take it.
There you go. I think we just solved our problem. Anyway, so that's kind of where we are. Just in terms of design, the building meets county's new design, we call it new urban design, of pushing the retail buildings and push commercial buildings to the street so that they're much more walkable. You don't walk through a parking field to get to the front door. So you can see we've created a pedestrian plaza on the corner. We really put a lot of effort into thinking how to make this a walkable, bikeable place for people to go. So there's a pedestrian path to the front door. Parking is hidden behind the building, and then there's a separate entrance, a second entrance from the fuel dispensing area and this parking area. So there's actually two entrances to the site. We've worked with the county architect and the landscape architect
You might want to turn that this way so.
The site plan? Okay.
Yeah, because nobody can see
I'm
that.
actually supposed to be speaking to them, but I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, they have
Better?
to do that,
This is
yeah.
that, of course. So we worked with the this is actually the third generation of the architecture. You'll remember back in October, it was a brick building, and everybody hated the brick building, so we went back and we heard what the community said about design. We met with the county's architect, the landscape architect, and this is what we think now fits. So what I'd like to do is have Tom Searcy from 7-Eleven come up and tell you a little bit about some of the community benefits that 7-Eleven alone does. Tom? And I think you all have a small handout that he provided.
Yeah, thank you for letting us speak this evening, and welcome. I put together a little informational handout that I wanted everybody to take a look at tonight. I'm not sure if everybody's received one. I did have a few extra copies back on the shelf back there as well. I'd like to take a few minutes to go through it. Also, I've attached, many of you know that today is National Night Out, and it's a big event for 7-Eleven to be involved in with their communities and with the law enforcement and first responders and things of that nature. So I attached some of our block party coupons for you to see what, I guess we're going to have our own block party here tonight. Since we probably won't be out of here early enough to go to any of the events that are going to be going on in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. So anyway, 7-Eleven's evolved over the years. We first started out in 1927, so we're 92 years old. And a lot of you have probably utilized 7-Eleven over the years, and you know, we're happy to actually have development come back online in the Northern California area, and we've got projects going over in a lot of communities. I've got projects in downtown Sacramento, Natomas, Lincoln, Rockland, Davis. So I'm happy to be able to hopefully work on this one in Orangevale. I'm near and dear to this area. I'm from, lived in Roseville for over 25 years, raised my kids over there. And before I started working with 7-Eleven, I worked for Blockbuster for 13 years. You know, right down the street, we had our famous Blockbuster video store there that is no longer there. It went the way of the dinosaur, you know, so. But still, I really enjoy Orangevale and everything the community brings to the table here. A lot of great people that live here, and it's just a wonderful environment in the community. I'm not good at public speaking, so please bear with me too. I'm very nervous to get up in front of crowds, so I'll do the best I can. 7-Eleven has changed over the years. Recently, we've gone to more of a neighborhood market format, so that you can stop in any time of day or night for convenience items. And as we go through my handout here, you'll see how extensive some of the product lines that we carry have become. The store that's on the front of the handout is our new store that just opened about 1.5 years ago in Arden Arcade on Howe and Hurley. And it turned out to be a wonderful store. And like Orangevale, we had a lot of opposition against 7-Eleven coming in at the very beginning. But I went through the whole process just like we're doing tonight, got the store up and running, and now we've got a wonderful relationship with the community. And some of the things I'm going to talk about here, we plan on doing, providing we have the opportunity to with Orangevale. So the second picture up on the upper right is a mural that one of the local artists in Arden Arcade offered to paint. And we'd like to have something like that with this store that, really signifies what Orangevale is all about. I've also added a couple other new format stores. One is a new lab store that we have in Dallas, Texas, where we're continually working on new items, new processes, new things to have for our customers. And then we had a really nice store open up in Portland, Oregon recently. So the next page, you'll get into some of the product line that we carry. And just to go through the different pictures, we've got an expanded section of bakery items, a lot of neat nuts and seeds, things that are healthier for you. That's another area that the company is changing to, rather to get away from, the soft drinks and, some of the sugary things like that. We still offer those, but we're switching to a more healthier for you line of products. You can see there's a fresh fruit and vegetable display that one of the local stores brought in from local vendors. The next page, you can see the grocery items that if you are running low, you don't have time to run down to your Rayleigh's or Safeway or Nugget or whatever main grocery store you shop at. We carry just about everything that you could possibly need. Paper items, health and beauty aids. So if some children are sick in the middle of the night, you need some type of medicine for them, we have that available in the middle of the night for them. The next page is our expanded deli section. And we've got a huge selection of great items to take home for dinner, breakfast, all different meals, and healthier for you type of low carb, high protein, non-GMO, type of food items. Now I'm going to get into the next page. This is our Project A game, and this is one of the things that we do really well with the communities. We sponsor a lot of school activities, whether it's art, whether it's band, whether it's sports, neighborhood organizations, things of that nature. The franchisees, along with 7-Eleven, have these Project A game checks that we will give to the organizations for $711. And sometimes we have 2 or 3 different franchisees that join together and offer these to different organizations, and some of them go up to $2,000, $3,000, or even higher. So it's just, again, a way that we get involved with the local communities. Another way that we've really stepped up, I believe, over the last 3 or 4 years are with the Sheriff's Activity Leagues. Sacramento, last year we helped raise over $19,000 for the Sacramento Sheriff's Activity League and $6,000 for the Napa Sheriff's Activity League. So all this money is put together for the youth and the local people from the different neighborhoods. We also have a project that we just started a couple of years ago. It's called the Renew Program. For every gallon of gas that is purchased at a 7-Eleven, we plant trees in the community. Recently, we just planted over 200 trees in Natomas in Hope Park. So we had our franchisees and our operations folks out there on a Saturday morning planting trees in the neighborhood to kind of offset the carbon footprint of the fuel that's sold. Well, I think every little bit will help, Arden, one of the issues that we'll hear about tonight is the alcohol issue, okay? Well, we were able to get the alcohol permit in Arden, and over the last 2 years, each year, the store was awarded the Responsible Alcohol Merchant Award, and we were the only 2 recipients in the area that received that. So, you know, that just attests to how we run the stores and the level of training and quality of people that we have running the stores. So I just wanted to mention that as well. And then we have other events that we participate in. Every year we've participated in Run to Feed the Hungry at Thanksgiving all throughout the area. So anyway, that's a little bit of information I wanted to share with you folks tonight. And now I'm going to sit down and listen.
No, you're going to stay there with me, and we're going to answer questions.
No.
Okay, so you need it.
Just briefly, if I may, as a developer.
Okay.
Just 2 minutes, yeah. I want to thank you all for coming out. I am with the development team, Guggenheim. Our main offices are in Dallas, but I'm local, Roseville as well. I've been in this area everywhere from Redding down to Santa Cruz building 7-Elevens mostly for the last 5 years. So I welcome all your comments. We want to hear this feedback. A few things I just want to touch on briefly that I think that may come up in questions. We've heard your comments about that this is an entryway to this area. This is a specific plan area. So as what Brian said as far as the frontage for the monument sign, if you also take a hard look at the site plan, you'll see that we've dedicated a bunch of additional land, in some places up to 23 feet of land, in order to make the SPA work. I don't know if you're aware of that, but from the standpoint of the additional turn lane that's going to go in the future, plus landscaping, plus median work, etc. So I know there's some discussion about maybe they don't want 7-Eleven, maybe you don't want 7-Eleven, but at the same time want to beautify. We feel like this is a step forward to recharge and re-energize this area. The other idea is that we have been in communication with the chamber in kicking off the P-bid. So I don't know if that's come to Orangevale CPAC, but we've attended the first meeting. There's another meeting on Friday, and we're wholly behind the P-bid from the idea of, again, generating interest in Orangevale, getting down Greenback Lane and making that look as nice as possible. I think there's 2 last things I want to touch on. One is to Tom's thing, he talked about this will be a franchisee-run store. That is the business model for 7-Elevens. A lot of time at these meetings, especially with alcohol sales, people say, who's the franchisee going to be? They want to know where the buck's going to stop. I'll tell you 2 things about that. One is you typically don't know that until about 90 days before store opens because of the way that it parcels out from the standpoint of how the franchise contracts work with the doors opening. It costs the franchisee money, obviously, to get that store. That store doesn't really exist on paper until they can see that it's going to open, so that's why the 90 days. 2 things about that. One is there is a list of franchisees held by franchising at 7-Eleven. Typically, it's weighted towards people who have shown success already, who have multiples. That's great news because obviously they're good performers, they do well with their communities, etc. But the better news, and we always say this at a public meeting, is if you know someone who might be a good candidate to be a franchisee for this particular store, Tom wants to know about it because it's easier for us, it's better for our life, and you're happier if you know who's behind working at that 7-Eleven. Lastly, most important, the safety and security of our staff, our customers, and the community. This building has a reverse layout. We have CPTED, maybe you've heard this, it's the crime prevention through environmental design. You can see through the store, through the front doors, through the back. Very important for police department as they drive by to see if there's anything going on. Second, the fueling is isolated out towards the roadway. Late night pump, you want to be able to drive by as a police officer and see people all the way through to the back of the property. And again, I feel very confident that we have that here. We're going to have our standard, which is top of the line for industry, 2 internal cameras, both on the front doors, 2 external to the gas canopy. And again, all of that holds those things for those images for 30 days, and always cooperating with the sheriff. We've met with the sheriff on site. We've already agreed to the entry to barriers, which for any new alcohol license in Sacramento County, the 10 o'clock shutoff, no singles, no mini wine bottles, etc. I know we get those questions a lot. They're good questions, but we've already said don't want it, don't need it. So, thank you for your time.
12 minutes.
Okay, so You need to say what's going to happen.
Okay, do you have anything to add in a real loud voice?
She needs a microphone.
Okay, so the project that is before the CPAC tonight is a use permit to allow a 24-hour automobile service station and a 24-hour convenience store on this 9396 Greenback Lane. Included with that, we are also having the special development permit, and what that'll allow is it'll allow for the canopy height to exceed the 18.5 feet. What we, as part of the design, the canopy height is going to have a roof line which matches similarly to the building, so they need an additional height for that, so that's included in the special development permit. And then it's also for the total signage to exceed 125 square feet. Because this is a commercial project, it is also going through our design review process with the county, and so what happens is there's a panel called the Design Review Advisory Committee. There's 3 architects that sit on it, and they review the design of commercial residential projects that come through the county. So this project did actually go before the DRAC. They did recommend approval of the design, which does bring up the point about the SPA. It is in the Greenback Lane SPA, and the Greenback Lane SPA has called out kind of 3 designs that they would like to see. One was the mid-century modern, which was brought, that design was the brick, kind of the low slum brick building, which was brought as the workshop that the applicant did not feel got favorable response, so they've come back in with the Rancho style, which is California Rancho, which this is a representation of, and then the other one would be the Town and Country style. So that is what is occurring with the design. This project is going to go before the Board of Supervisors. They are the final hearing body for use permits that are related to the automobile service stations and the gas stations. So that is the brief summary. If you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, there's been a couple of emails that we've received about liquor stores in the SPA. So can you give us a definition of what a liquor store in the SPA means?
So
Could you
what?
please talk louder, Leon?
Yes, I'm trying. So you are aware that when you look in the SPA, there is a small list of prohibited uses. One is a liquor store. So for our purposes, when you look in our zoning code, we do have the definition of a liquor store. This project doesn't meet the definition of a liquor store. So that's why we're classifying it as the convenience store, the neighborhood convenience store under 6,000 square feet. And it has to do with the percentage of alcohol and hard spirits that they actually sell. They're selling beer and wine, and they don't meet the percentage requirement, which is like 50%. So that's why we're classifying them as a
I'm
convenience
sitting
store.
here, I couldn't hear, can you go back up just a little bit?
Okay, so there's, in the Greenback Lane SPA, there is a small list of prohibited uses. Liquor store is one of them. However, this project doesn't meet our the zoning code definition of a liquor store, which is why when we're classifying it in the project description, we're classifying this as a convenience store, a neighborhood convenience store. So that's the rationale for the project description and why it's classified as it is. And just, I think I've mentioned this, but an automobile service station and then also the extended hours for the convenience store elevate this to going to the Board of Supervisors. So the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is the final hearing body for the project.
What about that one?
Wait. What we're going to do is we're going to have questions from us first, and then we'll turn it over to the audience to do that. We're going to have a little bit of different twist in here, is I want everybody to, if you have questions, not comments, but questions on the project, meaning, I don't understand this, or could you talk about that? then we can address that with these guys. But I don't want to hear any comments. I'll shut you off real fast if you get into comments, all right? So let's just keep it information right now only. So if we're going here, what we'll do is we'll finish ours, and then you guys can ask these guys some questions regarding just information about the project. Because a lot of times we come in here, people don't really know everything that's going on. They like to hear this before they come up and do that. So we'll do that as we move through this, okay? So, some questions you guys have of Leanne or these guys here?
Yeah, I have a question on the liquor store definition. How many square feet of space and what percentage of the sales floor area is the beer and wine sale? Are we talking 10%, 20%? How many, and will that be a hard condition of approval?
So our definition of a liquor store and off-sale alcohol beverages is any retail business where 50% or more of the shelf space is dedicated to alcoholic beverages. This does not trigger that, which is why...
7-Eleven, it's about 10% or less of the shelf space is beer and wine.
Okay, and so does that become a written condition of the use permit? So it's a hard condition, a legal requirement that they not exceed that?
Generally, we don't put it in as a condition in the use permit. I think in some cases it can be a condition on the business
How would it be
license.
How would it be enforced if it's not a hard condition of the use permit?
So a lot of times they are put on the business license, and then the business license is subject to renewal, and then also
It can be put on the PCN, which then the ABC and the county can enforce.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have any issue with that there's a hard condition?
We've actually encountered it before.
Yep. They would just assure that we do have this limited beer and wine only.
well, I mean, and also their type of PCN is for beer and wine. When you try and sell the hard alcohol, it gets you into a different
Beer and wine's called
category.
a type 20, and beer, wine, and spirits is a type 21, totally different license.
But that prohibition against liquor should run with a conditional use permit, shouldn't it?
Again, it's not necessarily on the conditional use permit. They get more attached to the business license and the PCN, which is the permit they get.
So
for
if it's
the alcohol
enforced through the
sale.
business license, who's the enforcing entity?
So for business license, it's the county, and then the ABC, when you're looking at the ABC license, it's the state.
And do those agencies inspect the facility to make sure that it's not growing, that the beer and wine's not growing?
I think ABC has that ability. If necessary, the county does go and do inspections, but it's not like
I'm just going to
exceedingly commonplace.
I'm trying to get to
as
what's the
it's supposed to do.
oversight to keep the 10% shelf space from growing into 40%?
Right. And like I said, we do put conditions on the business license and the PCN, and then business licenses are updated on a regular basis, and like I said, it's not exceedingly commonplace, but if necessary, there will be an inspection.
Yeah, isn't a business license every 3 or 4 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a question. So is the portion that you're going to donate, the property, 7-Eleven actually donating that, or the new franchise?
Actually, the Guggenheim, the developer. The developer would be the dedicator of the land
That's my only
for
question.
free.
Right, but I just want to make sure, I just didn't know who was doing it.
I have two questions kind of in regards to the SPA. I'm not seeing on any of the renderings, what's the plan for the power poles on Main and then on Greenback? The SPA dictates that they're supposed to be underground.
Yes.
Will they be moved underground?
I would suspect, but we could ask our engineer.
Yeah, everything will be underground.
Okay, so it'll impact the poles on the other side of the street for across to pull under? Because there's a power.
Because we're going to be doing new frontage improvements, curb gutter, sidewalk, and probably drive lane, then any power lines within that area typically get undergrounded, but not across the street or down the street or anything like that.
Sure, but that corner has a pole that goes directly across Greenback for...
The real answer is that'll go to SMUD. It'll be a SMUD decision, because that's going to be based on what they can guy down, and keep stable to the rest of the line. I've run into that in projects before, and so it's gone 50-50 based on the stretch and what.
Sure, well, the comment is more of, I wouldn't expect a pole across the street from the project to be removed, but more if that's going to be the source pole, you have to take that underground to the source, which would impact Greenback in terms of asphalt.
Yeah, you technically do it in loose situation, for a future development.
My other question is regards to the canopy height. So that meets the Sacramento County design criteria. Within the SPA, I believe there is a structure height limit. Does it exceed that?
It doesn't, and so what we're referring back to is the zone. What we're referring back to for the canopy height is the zoning code requirement, and the standard is 18.5 feet, but with the special development permit, you can exceed that if it's necessary.
Okay, one of the questions I had, and Leanne's going to answer it again, or in a much louder voice, to talk about a little bit briefly about the traffic signal there. Well, I'll let her talk about it if we can. For anybody that notices, that's a signal there that's kind of like right out in your face most of the time, and it's kind of a concern to me. So, if you would address that.
Okay, so we do have initial comments from the Sacramento County Department of Transportation. They are asking for dedication of additional right-of-way and additional public utility easement for that property. What they have told us is that they're not asking for full improvements at this time because they don't want to see what they're calling sawtooth development along Greenback. So what they want to do is they want to, at a later date, come in with a full project and do all the improvements at one time. So what they're saying is that any signal changes would occur in conjunction with any road widening that they would do at a future date as part of a more complete project for Greenback Lane.
Okay, everybody got that, right?
I don't really understand when she said dedicate, does that mean that 7-Eleven has to?
Yes,
come up with
so
money? Okay.
it's the developer.
Okay.
They own the property, so what's occurring is that DOT is asking them to dedicate for the additional improvements, which means they have to basically offer it to the county so that at such time the county is going to make those improvements, it's available to the county. So the county doesn't have to, as part of a project, go out and buy it or whatever from that owner.
I'm still not clear. To dedicate the land or dedicate the land and money or what? I don't know.
Right now, it's the land that they're dedicating. DOT did not ask for any money.
But we will be paying transportation fees that go in
Right.
county road.
Just years ago when we had.
We go back a long ways, we know each other. Okay, so now, okay, I'm sorry.
My question, I think, might be more for Jesse. I think you might have mentioned this. We've got a letter here from the sheriff saying that they objected, however, they'd be willing to drop the objections if these various criteria were met. So you saying, no alcohol sales past 10, no single bottle sales, that kind of thing. That's essentially that full list of conditions.
That's correct.
Okay.
The sheriff never endorses a business. They'll either oppose or they'll drop their opposition with acceptance of a list of conditions. So there's never a...
Right, that was my question. I just thought, I'm anticipating a lot of the public questions are about the alcohol, and I just thought it might be useful to reiterate those conditions that...
I can do that when we get to phase 2.
That's great. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions.
Okay, now.
Okay, first of all, I do have a concern because it says there are currently 9 off-sale licenses in this census tract. And only 3 of the off-sale license, I mean, they're saying that the ABC allows for 3 and there's currently 9. And so this is going to make 10. What if we said no alcohol?
Yeah, 7-Eleven wouldn't go forward.
Okay, all right, because I have a real big issue. They're saying 3 and now this is adding, now it's 9 and another one, so now that's 10.
Where did you come up with 3?
Right here, it says over-concentration. Based on population ratios, the ABC allows 3 off-sale license in the census tract. There are currently 9 off-sale license in this census tract.
Oh, she's looking at this.
The census, unless you wanted to, the census tract is a big, huge area.
Right.
Okay, so it can range all the way from Maine and go all the way down to where Walmart is. That might be a census tract, or it might even go further than that. We have dealt with this before on the CPAC, as the ABC kind of runs up the census tracts up to each other, and so you can have, on this side of the street, you can have 3 of them. On that side of the street, you can have 2, but they're in different census tracts. So when you look at it, you say, God, we have all these things here. For example, right down here in Maine and Madison, those are 2 tracts. So on one side of the street is 1 tract, it goes to Folsom. The other one is Orangevale, goes this way. So those, as far as ABC is concerned, they don't see that together. They see 1 track over here, and they see 1 track over here. We, as people going by there, we see three liquor stores right next to each other, or convenience stores, or whatever we want to call them. So the census tract doesn't always give a good representation of what exactly is going on.
Right. And if you have a corridor, a commercial corridor in the census tract, it will naturally have more retailers, and therefore it will have more alcohol purveyors than a census tract that is mostly houses and neighborhood streets. So it's really an odd way to gauge overconcentration.
Right.
But it's the only thing that ABC has.
Right, it's the only thing they have. Okay, so my other question is on the dedication of the land. The land is going to be dedicated, but then you were kind of talking about an office building and all of that. Who would pay for that building to go on?
That would be something the community would put funds together for to build. So we only did that because somebody said, what could we put there? And so we did a plan that said, well, you could even get a small office building with parking there. So that's why I mentioned that. It's not a piece of ground that a nonprofit would take and not be able to use. We wanted to make sure that if a nonprofit took it, there'd be enough land oriented in a way that it could be used for many things.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned that.
And Diane, if I will, because that's a good question. In hearing from the workshop, I'm kind of saying, because obviously it's a gateway to this area. I understand that completely. The corner's commercial value is in the corner. That's why it's called a corner. And the idea of 7-Eleven being there, it needs that in order to be viable. That's why we're here tonight. But in hearing that and saying, okay, is there a situation where, again, we can make some compromises on our own site plan? And again, we don't need to go through that from the standpoint that we said, okay, we've heard what they've said, this could be made available. Our first step actually, way back, was to the county to say, hey, this is what we heard, can we give you some land? And the county said, no, we don't take conveyance, we don't want that land. So we have pinged a few groups. To date, nobody has said, because you hit on a real thing there from the standpoint that there's cost with owning land. Nothing is, free is good. And I used to run a town and somebody donated an old historic building to it and it was great. But now you got to keep it up and all these kind of things. So I understand that it's not a free gift from the standpoint that real money has to be spent. But it is an overture and an attempt to say, hey, is there something that we're not thinking about that could work here? So.
Okay, then the second part on that question is that the land If the building's not going to be provided, okay, I can understand that, but what about the utilities? For instance, is there going to be water that will be accessible to that, or will they have to put in water and connect to a sewer line and stuff?
We've examined all that. The nice thing about all these sidewalk replacements to the front of the property is about 80% of those utilities. The only thing outside is, if you know the property well, there's a string of electric lines that are running down between the two properties. We're assuming to underground all of that, and then from that back corner run an easement to the conveyed parcel for somebody to get a hold of when they need to run their electricity.
Okay.
So the short answer is you're not running down the street 1,000 miles, etc. But you know, there are always, anytime you're in development, there are costs associated.
Right.
Is that the piece that's outlined in black?
No, yeah.
But yeah, because my concern is, let's say a nonprofit does take it over. Let's say the food bank, Orangevale Food Bank
Right.
says, okay, I want that piece of land. And now we can put the building on it, but what about everything else that goes with that
Everything's
building?
pretty much in the street for the most part.
Okay, so it's just a matter of running it right to there. Okay.
Who maintains that land until someone takes it over?
Okay.
It's like garbage cleanup.
Wait, let us finish and then,
Oh, I thought you said you take questions, sorry.
well, that's after we get done. We'll do that. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, one more question.
Sure.
There's a second building that was part of Wild Sports. Was that also purchased? I know it's not on this project plan. Was that also?
Plan south, across the other side.
Well, yeah, the smaller building.
Same owner, different parcel, not purchasing that parcel.
That's this piece right here.
Yeah, I thought, I couldn't remember if they were for sale together or separate. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Can we get clarification about the left-hand turns into the property, so how it works off Greenback and how it works off Main?
Can you
Are
guys?
there any left-hand turns into the property? I see a car about to make a left-hand turn there.
You've got a median in Greenback, so that's a right in, right out, right?
So there'll be
There's a
no,
median on Main,
I think
right?
there's a median in Greenback,
yeah,
right?
so there'd be no westbound traffic on Greenback trying to make a left-hand.
That's correct.
Not unless the median one way.
That's correct. And is there a median on Main?
There's a,
Double yellow?
there's a, like a,
Like a left-hand turn, little bump thing.
So for the most part, it's right in, right out.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's pretty common out on corners.
Yeah, that's good.
Due to the speed of that, during PRC, the staff reporting from county extended that drive to, I think, 45 feet in order to accommodate, because people were moving very quickly to get through.
You set it up nice, but I just wanted everybody to realize that.
Okay. Information only. All right, that's the rule. Okay,
Question.
you know the rules.
Right, the design review that this will go through, is that open to the public? Can we go and?
It's already happened.
And then CEQA, I thought they were gonna bring the CEQA back to this meeting.
The what?
CEQA, isn't there environmental quality for underground storage gas tanks
No, I don't know.
and traffic? I can swear that the last,
Hi.
the last year, we're open to ask CEQA.
So we are preparing an environmental document for this project. It is in the process. It's being prepared concurrently with our review of it. We are pending a traffic analysis. The Department of Transportation has asked for a traffic analysis. That is pending. That is going to be going in as part of the discussion in the environmental document. One of the items that we do discuss is we do, as part of the environmental document, we do discuss the gas station. It's discussed as air quality, and then it's also discussed as far as the underground tanks go. So it's currently being prepared, and there will be an environmental document for the project.
And when will that be brought to the public for review?
So what happens is when we complete it, it does go out for a review. It's called, we issue what's called a notice of intent, and then it is available for public review. And then the document goes to both, it'll go with the recommending at the Planning Commission information, so it'll be available when we have the Planning Commission hearing. And then it also runs with all the documents up to the Board of Supervisors. And the Board of Supervisors, they look at that as part of the project review.
I forgot to mention too, that if you're interested in this project after tonight, that you need to follow it on your own through the process. So it's going to be published and put on the planning agenda, and then it'll go to the Board of Supervisors. So you'll have to look for those as it goes on.
It'll go to the Planning Commission?
Planning Commission, yes.
Planning Commission next, before streets?
Yes, so the progression of this project is it goes to the CPAC for their recommendation, and then once we have the project done, ready, we take it to the Commission as a recommending body, and then the final body that will make their determination on this project is the Board of Supervisors. So there's 2 more public hearings for this project.
Okay.
So hopefully the Planning Commission, because I couldn't find anywhere in the SPA the design requirements for east of Chestnut, the height requirements, it did for west. So I guess the Planning Commission might know better what code has that height recommendation.
Yeah, so the SPA east of Chestnut, it seems to, it's not really specific as to the height. It provides more height requirements west of Chestnut, and then where it's specifically called out in the zoning code, like for the canopy height, we have referred to the zoning code for that canopy height. If that, because on some items the SPA is silent. So where it is definitely silent, we've looked at it as to, does this meet the merits of what the SPA is calling for, and where there is a specific zoning code criteria, we have referred back to the zoning code.
So the height requirement is 18.5, and what are they doing, 20.5?
So it's 18, yeah, it's right around 20.
Okay.
And it has to do with, I'm not sure, I think there's a, so where the height requirement for the canopy exceeds is that you can see there's kind of the Spanish style type roof on the building itself, and they've carried that over to the canopy. Because
just
one of the things,
clarification.
Yeah, because one of the things that we look for in our design review administrator is very concerned about is he wants to make sure that when he's looking at a design that there is design elements that in a building and they get carried over to the canopy.
Just to find out, in order to, can we get on the list to be notified by using the information on the sheet?
Yes.
This is your number and
Yes.
your email, so we can, if you want to do notification, just notify Leanne and she'll put you on the list, we'll be notified as soon as it is.
Yeah, so if somebody specifically asks to be notified of the hearings and they're not on the standard notification that we do, then we will add you to our mailing list, which we provide for the public hearings.
Yeah, are those dates for the next 2 hearings already decided?
They are not set.
How soon would that be determined?
What we need to get the traffic analysis back so that we can finish the environmental document. We have to finish the environmental document. There's a mandatory review period for that. So we can't have a public hearing until the environmental document is finished and we've done the review period.
And we can't do the traffic analysis until kids are back in school. That's where you get a full count on the streets. So they won't be in the streets doing that until just about the end of August, early September.
So call or email and get on the list.
Okay.
Who, that parcel that you guys are dedicating or whatever, giving to someone. Obviously, it sounds like it's going to be a little while before it happens. Who's going to maintain that, say if garbage is dumped on it or the weeds are growing and that type of thing? Who's responsible for that?
You bring up a really good point from the standpoint of we have pinged a few people in the community. We've not gotten back yeah, I'm in.
Hey guys, we need to...
Certainly in moving forward with the project, the county's going to want to know that exact same thing, design layout, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have a long-term deal to keep this as a separate parcel on the books forever and ever. So what I'm asking for is if there's a good idea, of course Leanne has all my contact information. You see me afterwards, I'm happy to talk to you. But this is something we'd like to get our hands around sooner rather than later if there's a viable candidate. The short answer, if we were not to find a viable candidate, is that Leanne and her team are going to expect some redesign in that area in order to accommodate anti-loitering, anti-trash, all those types of things. But also, from what I've heard, is just some softer buffer into this area, i.e. keeping some of it landscaped, obviously, from the idea of, welcome to Orangevale, you're in this section now. So it's not to just blacktop it, which it is right now. So.
It's low maintenance now because it's all blacktop.
Yeah, but weeds are growing through the blacktop.
Yeah.
Is that a separate APA number?
It is not. It's not been created yet. So it's one single parcel.
Do you plan on doing that?
We would do that if we had someone to convey it to. Yeah, yeah.
And then the building that you're saying that is still there just to your south, that is staying? Is that its own parcel number?
Correct. It's its own parcel, and again, I just for clarity's sake, I don't know if it's for sale. Maybe
It's been sold. I do know that.
Okay.
And what I've been told is it's a meeting facility. A business has bought it for a meeting facility. That's all I've been told.
Could you repeat that? It has been sold?
It has been sold. It closed the same time as the 7 closed. They said that realtor told me that it was a meeting place for a business is all he could elaborate. So it'd be like a conference room type place.
Thank you.
And then
I'm from the gentleman, I'm sorry, from the 7-Eleven Corp. Tom. Okay, Tom, I had a couple of questions. At the last CPAC meeting that was over in the other building that was about this project, the question was brought up about the percentage of alcohol, and I'm not sure who the representative that was here told us a different number than the 10%. He said it would be 14 or 15.
That's the general, that percentage is the percentage of gross receipts that alcohol generally is. So the space is 10%, but the percentage of gross receipts on a daily basis is around 12 or 15%, something like that.
Okay,
so there's a difference.
Okay, my next question would be, do you have any stores that are dry stores?
I'm only aware of one.
And would you consider that? Since we have so many, you would not? Okay. I have other questions, but they're more like comments, so I guess I can't bring them up.
Back here.
Yeah, regarding the alcohol sales, is that percentage of gross sales based on the total gross sales, including gasoline?
No, just merchandise sales.
Just merchandise sales?
Yes.
So 15% of merchandise sales is alcohol, on an average?
Correct. Well, it's not that high, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12%.
Okay.
Is what they fluctuate between.
Okay.
So going back to this percentage, we've all been in 7-Elevens and they stack stuff. Is that what you're talking about? You know what I mean, like when they have beer or stacked up or something? Are we saying that it's 300 square feet of alcohol? I mean, I think it's 3,000 total, so it's 300 feet? Is that what you're saying?
So typically what the sheriff is requiring now is that the wine can be outside at room temperature, but generally the sheriff is asking that the beer be in coolers and that it not be stacked at the front door like you see in some locations. So the sheriff's trying to get all the merchants to do that.
But is it 300, I'm just trying to get my mind wrapped around it. Are we saying it's 300 square feet? I mean, 10% of 3,000 is 300. I mean,
that's probably high when you think of it being in coolers. It's usually 2 coolers, sometimes maybe 3 at the most.
And of the 3,000, you have to subtract out to be retail space. So you're gonna have 2 bathrooms, you're gonna have an office, you're gonna have the back room, et cetera. So by the time you narrow that down, and then, like you said, you're gonna have out of a 12 cooler bowl, 3 or 4 with alcohol, wine, that type of thing.
Typically it's 4, and then there's probably 2 end caps that in the past have been used. And then we do have the wine display, which is usually about 2 end cap, or 2 gondolas on one side. So if we're talking about 12 to 1,500 square feet of sales floor, then, 150 to 200 feet max would be, what we're looking at. Each store design is a little bit different, though.
Okay, way in the back.
What about tobacco sales?
What?
Tobacco sales.
And all the vapors?
I'm not sure where this area is with, I know in Sacramento, there's things going on with the flavored tobacco and vape, things of that nature, but I'm really not up to speak on Orangevale. I'm assuming it would be pretty similar to Sacramento, but I'm not quite sure where they're at. I'm going to have to research that and find that out.
But tobacco sales are typically included in the product line.
Right.
What's the percentages of tobacco
I would have to look. I don't know, Justin, have you done any research on that?
I haven't seen it for a few years. Yeah, I wasn't involved with the city of Sacramento with the e-vape, so I'm sure it came out there quite a bit, but I don't know.
I've been out of operations for 3 or 4 years, so I'm not quite sure what the average is at this point.
Good question.
Okay.
What is the estimate, I looked through this, but I didn't see it. When you plan to break ground, if all of this goes through, would you plan to open?
Oh, wow. Jesse? Well, when he wants to open or when it's likely to happen?
We say, well, we're in a democratic process, so, let's see. 6.
Next time.
Off the top of my head, I would say February of 2021. We, based on, you can do concurrent building permits while you're still in planning, but you've already heard from Leanne kind of what the timeline we're in there. If everything were to go through and the Board of Supervisors would give their support, we see that happening just before Christmas break. And then you've got 6 months of building permit type things, and it typically takes about 7 months to build. So that would put us just about the 1st of 2021.
Thank you.
So wild sports would go away, the building in end of December, or on a good day?
We would be working towards that building permit the moment we knew we had approvals and we could purchase the land outright, and we would start. And by the way, you do have the additional cost of, we've got abatement in there, we've got some demo work that has to go on there, as you point out. So we'd probably do that time around the rain, but February, March, hopefully we get that down and be on our way to, moving forward.
Is there any way for you to estimate what kind of tax dollars from your business will go directly into our community? Because I think this is a fancy big building, great, but the truth is, our roads are beat up and some of our neighborhoods are diminishing. Buildings are falling down all around us, and to me, what is this going to do for the rest of our other small businesses that are here that are going to suffer, and then allow us to have more empty buildings and more to deal with where people are getting kind of shoved out? So what are you going to bring to our community to offset that financially?
I've never seen an estimate of the sales tax generation, although it's not Walmart. This isn't a retail killer. This is, there might be a minor effect on a liquor store in terms of beer and wine sales. I don't think it's going to impact Rayleigh's, Safeway, or any other grocery store because of the fresh food provisions. I've never heard anyone could think of 7-Eleven as a major competitor to local businesses in an area. They sell a variety of products, so they're not going to.
Very small mom and pop businesses in our community, though, and it will impact them. And that's, So that's why I'm asking. And I don't necessarily even shop them, but I see them as I'm driving down the streets, and I'm wondering, what monies are you gonna bring to our community other than a fancy building on a corner?
Well, if I can answer some of that, just from my experience in the past with some other county supervisors, that the money that is generated in sales tax goes to the county, and then the county decides based on algorithms that they have. I don't, those are kind of secret stuff, but the more you produce, the more stuff comes back to you eventually. So we all have to look at that, and then there's communities such as where we are right now, where we're not producing a whole lot.
Where money would be produced that would go to the community is if the P-bid goes forward. The P-bids don't do well when there's vacant land and abandoned buildings, because who wants to pay thousands of dollars a year into a P-bid for economic development, beautification, all that? But you get new businesses, and you get more businesses that catalyst off of the other new businesses, then you've got enough financial ability to actually fund a P-bid and do some major corridor improvements.
And this is where we've been fighting this for a long time. It isn't just today, but it's been going on for a long time. So, we need to somehow come up with, more revenue for the county. They can see it, and then they can come back and help us do other things. And that hasn't always happened. It's not happening. So that's where we're at. That's why, some people don't like the commercial development, but that's where we all live. We all live off of that. We all get our roads built and maintained, and things happen based on revenue that comes into the county, or the city, depending on where you live and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
I know it's a catch-22.
okay. There was another one. Anybody new? We have an old one here. All right, one more. Old question. Go ahead.
I might have missed this, but what was the size of the piece of land you were going to dedicate?
Detailed there. Can you read that, Ryan?
What size?
8,900 square feet.
8,900 square feet.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're all set. You guys, how do you feel? You want to stand up here while we have comments, or do you want to wait until we're all done and then answer?
Sit down and come back for the second item. How's that?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Watch out for your back.
I've been here before.
We try to keep it light around here, All right, here's item 1. He says 1 and 2. Albert?
Yeah.
Okay. Comment? What we're going to do, we have a lot of people to talk, so we're going to go 3 minutes. So at the end of 3 minutes, I'll tell you you're at the end, and then you have a few seconds to summarize what you're talking about.
You want me to time it?
I've got it.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Go.
First of all, I've been here 38 and a half years in Orangevale. I think it's a bad idea. Putting the store in there, since we've got liquor stores around already close off of Madison and Main. And I think there could be other better uses than putting another store in here, since we're not going to really see any revenue from it. And we've got homeless people, dozens of homeless people here. We got a lot of drug addict people here. And as soon as they open up the store they're talking about, 7-Eleven, there's going to be drug addict right in front of the store. There's going to be fights. There's going to be all kinds of problems. So I'm against the store to be put here in Orangevale.
Thank you. Gary. Oh, you're item 2. I got item 2 on here.
You talking about K.Benedict?
No, wait a minute. You're on item 2.
I have one and 2.
We're supposed to make a separate one?
Yeah, Okay, here's Stacy Sherman.
So, first of all, I want to thank 7-Eleven for taking into consideration all the angst that you dealt with on their first meeting. It was pretty brutal, but I think you really did try to incorporate all of those comments. With that said, I still don't support what you guys are doing. I think it's going to hurt our local mini marts. We've got 3 of them here within a quarter mile or so of where this is going to be. And there's really nothing that 7-Eleven is going to bring those little, family markets are to provide. I love the fact that you would brighten up the corner. I do. Orangevale needs investment. And I'm more peaceful now if we can't stop it than I was months ago. But I'm also very concerned that you guys are going to end up with having homeless camping out all night, 24 hours, just like they do on the corner down the way with AM PM. There's just nothing that 7-Eleven is really going to add to our community that we don't already have. But I really do appreciate you working so hard to work with us as a community. Thank you.
Okay, Denise?
Yeah, most of my questions were answered already. I had a question about the facade, and I understand that it won't be like the Hurley way with the stone and everything. The 24 hours, that was the next question, the hours. I'm hoping that you will, I'm assuming that you're going to have massive security because you are 24 hours open and everything. And that you will be addressing the homeless, because especially I think this area, because of the food bank, very close proximity, has the homeless population, and also because of the down at Madison and Maine, the convenience stores down there and everything. So I'm just looking forward to working with you. We're your southern neighbor. Southern Point neighbor. So, thank
you. Okay, Rick? It's like Brebeck?
Yeah. My concern is foreshadowing a lot of what's already been said. I do agree that they've done a lot of work in thinking about how to improve the look of the area, and the area is definitely blighted. And so I appreciate that. I don't agree with the idea that we give to all these things. That's nice, but you got to think of the bigger, what do you want to call it, ethic thing here. In other words, giving trees and helping out the teams and all that's all great stuff. But I agree that we have a real problem. Now, I myself turn on that corner quite a bit, and I have at least 5 times in the last 2 years nearly killed somebody. And the reason why is because they have these homeless people who are not bright enough to wear a reflective outfit or have a light on them, and they're not even crossing at the corner. And I one time saw something just like, and I thought, nothing, but I hit my brights. There's this idiot there in a black outfit, walking across the street in kind of a slow manner because he's not all there. And actually, 7-Eleven, unfortunately, it's not their fault that all these people are around here, and it's actually a problem that we need to clean up. Aside from 7-Eleven, it's dangerous. I nearly killed at least 2 of them. I had to slam on the brakes on one guy. I came within a foot of him, and I'm not a fast driver. At night, I don't drive like an idiot. So we do have a problem with all of Orangevale, and we do need development. It's blighted, and a lot of these shopping centers there have different owners, as was pointed out, and they're not putting any money into paint or upgrading, and it looks like, I don't have to say it. Same thing on Main. So we do need the development very badly. I just think the corner is already a busy corner, And I'm glad that it's a right in and a right out, because that was one of my big concerns, is that we can't have a left turn there. But it's already a bad corner. In fact, I was actually sitting there at the stop. I know this has nothing to do with this, but I was sitting there waiting to go, and some lady rammed into the back of my car at about 5 miles an hour. So it's a congested corner, especially at high profit times, or like around 5 o'clock-ish. So my concern is that the store will bring a lot of traffic in general. And so that's a big concern. I do think it does compete with local businesses, but I do think they made the extra mile to make their store nice. And I do think they did do a lot of work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dana Lee Anderson.
Dana.
That's why I said Dana.
I've told you that many times.
Old friends, huh?
We met her through the CPAC.
A very impressive presentation. But I've had developer friends that have told me about these beautiful pictures that they do, and of course, the end result doesn't look like that. I know we have the same thing with the church of what's happening now down the street, and the beautiful picture, and it's been there for years now, and it never came up to what the picture was. I'm back the neighbors that are concerned about the homeless addict. I don't have that problem in my neighborhood yet, but then we don't have anything there too much to draw them. But I do know that there's all kinds of vacant land or whatever that they can get into and camp around there. And that would be my concern, and I totally back the neighbors. They have to live there. You don't have to live there. I don't have to live there. But they have to live there and know that this is going to be, especially being open 24 hours a day, is going to be a draw for them. And like I said, the down on their luck homeless people are a little bit different than the addicts and the tweakers, the things that it sounds really scary. I'm glad I don't have to go there. So that would be just my thing. That I said and it's nice that you do all these things for the communities and the sheriff's department, but I know you are giving so that you can get it. But your bottom line is the profit and the dollar. I understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bruce? I think it's Bruce?
Yeah.
Okay.
My concern with this is the whole idea of the SBA, as some folks know, and the new people should take a look at it, was to upgrade that area. I think if the 7-Eleven goes in, it's going to be one of those situations where years later people are going to say, what the hell were they thinking? Because you drive down that section, I just did it tonight just to remind myself, and you have a tire place across the street, you have so many gas stations, it's a really strange section in that it's all car oriented. And so we're going to have another gas station there. They can put nice trees and stuff around, but it's going to be a gas station. So we have more car stuff, we have tires, we have auto sales. It's kind of a very strange corridor that needs something else. And one other thing is in terms of that lot that they're trying to give away, think about it. It's between gas pumps and a storage area. I mean, it's not a great space. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what to do with it. Some people are creative about design, but it's not exactly where you would want to put a community center or have people do activities. It's kind of a strange space, as I said. So I don't think that it's a very attractive place. I'm not even sure exactly how you put an office building in there. It's kind of narrow. But going back to the point, we have enough gas stations. There are gas stations everywhere. There are gas stations up and down that street. There's Orbit, for instance. They're fixing themselves up right now. This is not an area that needs another gas station. And the convenience store, as everybody brought up at this meeting and the prior meeting, it's just going to be littered with homeless folks. I mean, I know it's a different issue, and I didn't see the letter from the sheriff's office, but I don't know if they addressed that at all. But there were problems at the Taco Bell, so it's not as though it has to be a great attraction, as everybody knows who reads the articles. So anyways, I think it's a bad idea for planning to have another gas station. It's completely unnecessary. And the convenience store, it's just going to be a magnet for homeless people. Thanks.
Arlene?
I think pretty much everybody covered my concerns from before. I too agree that I respect all the work that you've done. You know, we really need something on that corner. It's a mess right now. Doesn't look good. But I too am not really in favor of another convenience store, gas station, a hangout, because there is that little back area there. We all know what's going to happen with the homeless. It's just the way it is. And you answered, thank you, my questions about the security. I was thinking you've got the open front entrance and you've got a back. I liked that idea. That was one of my questions, to where it's open, because I would worry about, I don't want to be the naysayer, somebody robbing you and taking off through the back. So I hope that there will be cameras in the back, because I can see that area being a bad hangout area, so that you could ward that off. I don't know if that's, you probably have inside cameras. I think the outside cameras by the pumps would be a good idea. But again, I do appreciate all the work that you've put in, but it personally, we have this different vision that was the other group, I can't think of their name, that drew up the plan, the GLOVE. It has nothing that looks like anything that GLOVE was proposing, to where things would be more standardized. We've got, like you said, a lot of weird little businesses in there, but how do you fit GLOVE's expansion into that? But thank you.
Lorraine, like weekly.
So I'm probably going to be an unpopular one, because I'm not fully opposed to this situation. My take on it is that it's been for sale for a little while. I've talked with the realtor about it, because I own Ashley's Country Kitchen, which is right down the street there, and I would love to move to that corner and put a nice little community coffee shop in. I don't have the millions of dollars that 7-Eleven put it in there. But I don't want to see a vacant building also that is dilapidated, and the weeds and the fencing around it, and nobody else is buying it. I've talked to the realtor. There was other offers on it. I mean, it went for a very low price for a corner, and I would have snatched it up, frankly. But there's no other coffee shop, like someone had mentioned they wanted to have go in there, or a library. We have this land next door that's 20 years, I don't know, that's waiting for the library there. It would be a community center to go in there, yes, but there's no money, there's no resources to do it, nobody's stepping up to the plate to do it. I just don't want to see a vacant building that's getting more dilapidated, more deteriorated. I hear the homeless complaints, believe me, I get it. Like I said, I'm right down the street there, I deal with it all the time. But a vacant building attracts more homeless than a non-vacant building, and it's up to the management to take care of it. We have full-time security that goes to our parking lot. AM, PM that is in our parking lot, frankly, doesn't care, doesn't help. We argue with them all the time. We kick people out. We kick them off with the land that's not even ours, and we have to tell the police, yes, this is our land. We need them off here. AM/PM actually owns that little strip in between us, but I'm not going to watch them out there going pee in the bushes all day long. So we kick them out all day long. It's up to the management to take care of it, and I'm hoping 7-Eleven can be a progressive management that can take care of it, because we are. And so I don't think it would attract more. I think it would actually deteriorate more than the vacant, but it has to be progressive management. They have to be on it, and we do have a very bad homeless problem. People get busted in from Folsom right there. We don't have a dedicated police force in Citrus Heights, so we're kind of the stepchild, unfortunately. And I'm sorry, Orangevale. Citrus Heights buses them in, Orangevale buses them in, Roseville buses them in. We'll have footage of that. So if you understand our community problem with that, I think 2 cameras inside, 2 cameras outside isn't enough. I personally already have 8 cameras, and I want more, just because you got to cover every angle and everything that happens. So I think if you guys could run it correctly and you could understand our problems, come to these meetings, come to our community meetings, stay involved in the community, it could be a good thing for our community. It's better than a vacant building to me, and I know nobody else is stepping up to the plate to do something else with that land. So I just want to see us progress.
Rebecca? You just won the prize and you didn't get it. Mercer?
I would planning on speaking about this?
You want number 2? We'll just put them in the bio now.
Didn't write it up on the top there. Okay, that's all I have for number 1.
Robert, you got me, Terry Benedict up there.
And I have both of them too, 1 and 2.
I don't, I have you on number 2.
I have number 1, number 2.
Attachments?
You have 1 and 2.
Right.
He had 2.
There's no homeless inside that fence by Wells Forest.
That's true.
But it's an ugly fence.
Sure.
Okay, as far as the parking lot and so forth, will you guys, do you have a regional manager that comes around, even though it's a franchisee? Do you have someone comes around and says, hey, wait a minute, you need to wash down your sidewalks? I mean, I was coming out of one today, it was just so disgusting. The sidewalks, the parking lot and stuff. Will you have somebody, and will you guys have security? I think that's the question. The whole issue seems to be around the homeless. What are your plans for taking care of the homeless?
Why don't we hold off on this
Write that
until,
down and answer it later.
until you guys get to answer that, so, until we're all done here. Terry is next. Do you have a sheet in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something.
No, do you have a card?
Yeah, I do.
He must be on number 2. Are you on, do you want to talk about number 2?
I don't understand what's number 2.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to call it on this only.
I can't hear you. What's your name?
Or do I have to wait?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, it's not just the homeless that are going to be around in that corner. You also have the boardwalk. There's a lot of drunk people that are going to be coming out, and they're going to be running right across the street.
Yeah.
There's already been someone who actually did die, Sarah. I'm sure the community is familiar with Sarah. She used to, be around, she was a transient, she used to hang around the area, and she used to walk around drunk all the time with John. She got hit by a truck, she got killed like less than a year ago. So I just feel like there's gonna be a lot more of that going on. I mean, you guys are not promoting you guys are not gonna be selling anything positive. It's just tobacco and drugs, and honestly, there's already enough stores in that corner. I have a store and I'm in the process of remodeling it. I'm gonna make it good, and I'm over there and working it all the time. And I don't allow any homeless. I don't allow any nonsense to go on. And I'm pretty sure you guys are not gonna be up in the front like that and protecting that corner like that. I've seen what 7-Elevens, and you guys are talking. You guys are gonna bring this and that. And I also think it's funny how the chamber has all of a sudden jumped on board with this. Before, when I was having discussions with them, they were it didn't seem like they're really for it, but it seems like they have a lot of initiative, and then now maybe that back corner is going to be donated to them, so they have, they're in on it type of thing. These are things that we gotta put together and realize what's really going on over here. Like, are they looking out for the best interest of the town, or are they looking out for the best interest of themselves?
Okay. Thank you. Terry, you're up.
Come up here so you guys don't have to turn your necks. So thank Chairman Crawford for allowing us to speak for 3 minutes and not restricting our comments. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I'd like to speak a little bit more than what I did during the Orangevale happenings. I gave you a handout attached to my speaker card.
Yep.
I'd like the council members to read it, if you could. In Orangevale happenings, I said I would support a Mel's Diner, but I wouldn't support a 24/7 gas station, convenience store, liquor store. So I'd like to speak a little bit longer on it. If there were no convenience stores, gas stations, and liquor stores within a half-mile radius of Main and Greenback, I could support a 7-Eleven convenience store at Main and Greenback. But that's not the case, and I do not support a 24/7 7-Eleven gas station, convenience store, liquor store at this Greenback, Main, and Main location. I'm not for the canopy raising, for sure. That's going to allow the big, huge, tall box trucks to come in there, 20 feet, and then those things are tall. And I'm going to speak to agenda item 2. And I had something else to say, and I didn't make notes of it. But it's going to impact those other stores. The little convenience store, there's 2 convenience stores on Main. I don't know what the gentleman's store, which one he owns, but then there's a liquor store down by the 99-cent store that was there. The AM/PM is going to be down there. There's a gas station, convenience store at Walnut and Greenback that's definitely going to impact those little guys. How long can they hold out? I mean, I don't think it's going to benefit those people, those stores. I'm not a store owner, but I wish they were here to speak, but I don't think they are.
That's my store.
Which one?
The one on Walnut, and that one's been there for about 60 years, I believe.
Yeah, and good point. Yeah, that corner's always been dark. For the life of Orangevale, it's never been dark. It's never been light. And now it's going to be lit up in 7-Eleven if it gets approved. Thank you.
Okay, we're ending item 1. So if you guys want to answer any of those, or you?
Mine says number 1 and number 2 on it.
You spoke on one.
I can ask questions. I haven't been comments.
Oh. Okay, all right. I know her too. She goes back a long way. Never know.
I agree with a lot of what has been said. I think it's allowed by right if they comply with all the SBA guidelines. We can't, the Board of Supervisors, the last decision body, has to approve it if they meet all the guidelines and the conditions. But what can be denied is a 24-hour use permit. So that has to be approved all the way up to the Board of Supervisors. An SBA, which took several years to develop and got a lot of community input, it specifically states that what we would like to see in that corridor is shops, dining, cafes, and boutiques. This type of store, like we've all said, is not something that we envision going in there. I realize it was stated that it was on the market for a while. I don't think it was on the market for that long. And I still think that we should be patient and hold out for what we want. I think if we settle for something, we'll regret it for the next 50 to 100 years because we're stuck with it. Somebody would have invested this kind of money. Granted, I'm so glad that the look is much different than the workshop. That was really going to drive me crazy. But I really think it'll cause a demise of some of the other mom and pop stores. So even though we'll have this one, now we have all these other ones that are dying and then becoming more blight, and nobody's selling those because those are going to take a lot more money. I think we just really need to think to the future of Orangevale and what we really want on that corner. And I know you say the blight, I mean, it's already going to sit there for 2 years before we see anything. And I really think if we're patient, we can find somebody that will invest in it. I just think we're being short-sighted on what we could possibly have there in just because somebody stepped in. I also think that if you look at the 7-Eleven at the corner of Greenback and Auburn, somebody had mentioned that the sidewalk is dirty. They don't clean that one. That was really, I had to run in there for milk one time, and it was just like transients around. I go, oh. And I know we've said, oh, we'll have more cameras. This one will be different. We don't know that. We don't know that this will be different. And I think that 24 hours is a deal breaker to me, because that's where the transients, they come out at night.
Okay, you guys want to respond, or do you need to? Or you feel
Well, it's really hard to deal with the homeless question, because no matter where you go, there it is. It's a huge issue without throwing millions of dollars at it, and it doesn't get better. But the reality is, the homeless want to go to 2 places. They want to go to stores where they can get a single can of beer or one of those little airplane bottles of spirits. That's where they're going to go to feed their habit. That's not going to be 7-Eleven. We're not going to do that. We are restricted from doing that. The second thing they want to go to is they want to go to dumpsters. They want to go to dumpsters that are open, where there's no lid. And this particular, the county's requirements are that the dumpster is enclosed in masonry, it has a solid iron gate, it has a roof, it has a drain so that whatever's in the dumpster, if anything leaks out, it doesn't go in the water system, it actually goes into the sewer now. That's the requirement. So the dumpster here will be, in essence, homeless proof. And the third thing the homeless don't want to go to is a big, bright building where there's lots of people, cameras, and lights. That's not where they're going to want to sleep. They're going to want to go to a vacant building. They want to go hide someplace at night. They don't want to be on a major corner with traffic. They might be wandering out there occasionally, but that's not where they want to be. So the point is that if this building stays vacant, you're absolutely right. It's going to attract homeless. The new 7-Eleven, with all the requirements and the restrictions, and if we need to have more cameras, fine, we can have more cameras. We'll work that out with the sheriff. We will work through SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, with the sheriff to make sure that the shrubs are less than 3 feet so people can't hide there. They'll make sure that the trees are a certain height so that the trees don't hide people. They'll make sure that there are portions of the building and the portions of outside that are safe. Don't allow bad people to hide. That's the whole point. We will go through that process. So I guess my point is, as difficult as it is to deal with the homeless issue, this is the right way to deal with it in one spot. Don't feed them through the dumpster, don't give them their alcohol, and make it a not nice place to hang out, because they don't want lights, they don't want activity, they don't want people around. So my point is, I'm trying to say that in essence, as you mentioned, the proposed use will thwart the homeless much more than encourage them.
Are the restrooms going to be locked? Yes. Are the restrooms going to be locked?
I'm sorry, my hearing's...
Restrooms, are they going to be locked? You got to get a key from...
Oh, yeah, always, yes, yeah. Oh, and just in terms of security, one of the things that 7-Eleven does is if they need more cameras outside, they have no problems doing that. The idea is they have cameras outside and they have monitors inside so that when you're in there as a customer, you see who's coming in. And they've lowered the shelves so you can see through the whole store. And so you want to be able, and then as you come in, there's a monitor so you see who's in the store. And so the whole idea is to make it a very safe place to come, be comfortable, and to do your shopping.
Right, and I think you had a question about the local operations folks, and actually the market manager, the regional manager, and the field consultant, which is like a district manager, were going to be at this meeting, but it got scheduled the same night as the other event that's going on out there right now. So they aren't here. They'll be at the follow-up meetings that we have moving forward. But yes, we do have a district manager type person that's in the store one day every week. And we have the operations regional manager that lives local as well. So it has high visibility from upper management. So that's just to answer your question that you had about that. And I'm not sure if there were any other questions there.
No.
Okay.
I kind of laugh at his comment about the lighting is not going, it's going to keep people away that are doing drugs and everything. It is not going to keep people away no matter if it's light, lit, because the 99-cent store went out of business down there. What do you mean time?
It has to be a question.
The question is, or answer is, it ain't gonna make any difference what they do, because they closed the 99-cent store because the thieves and drug addicts going in there.
Okay. Thank you, but these guys came back up to answer some questions, not to bring up more comments, okay? So if you got, you guys have any more answers to those concerns that came up?
Not till we get to number 2.
Okay, so,
We can't have any more questions on that.
No, wait till
no, we're gonna close, right? I mean, we've talked about number 1 enough, okay? We're gonna get to number 2, and I'm sure you can drag those questions on to number 2, okay? Homeless will come back up again. But we kind of have to keep moving here because it's already late. So, all right, we're gonna close comments on number 1. The way this works now is if council people want to talk about what they're going to, how they feel, or whatever, but other than that, we'll take a motion, we'll vote, and then we'll move on to number 2. Okay? So, anybody, any comments? Normally what happens here, if you haven't been, we got some new guys, if a council person feels like they need to say something, this is the time to say it. Okay, so if you want to defend your vote, this is probably the best time to
And what are
defend
you
it.
voting on?
We're voting on number 1, which is the
Use permit.
use permit.
Special development permit and design review.
So you're giving them permission to go ahead, that's what you're voting on?
We're voting on what was
It's
presented.
item number 1 on the,
Regardless of what the community says?
No, they haven't voted yet.
We haven't voted yet.
Well, they're going to right now, correct?
I just have one thing to say. It was brought up, the homeless thing and the food bank. I actually toured the food bank because I personally wanted to see what their procedures were for giving out food. They do not give food to the homeless. There are certain qualifications that you have to have, and I wanted to see for myself how that food bank runs. And I'm sure if any of you guys would like to know, you could probably go there and set up a tour. I did it, and I know that they're there, and most of the homeless hang out across the street in that vacant lot that the grass is 5 feet tall. But I really don't think, they're not around. I mean, I don't know. I just need to defend that. Another thing is there are a lot of gas stations. We all get gas. So I'm a small business in Orangevale. I promote small business. I get my gas from a small business. That's just who we are. So you don't have to get your gas there. You don't have to go there, so choose what you want. So that's it for me.
okay? Anybody else?
Yes, I do have a question that was brought up, and that was, and this is something that we are voting on, and that is the 24-hour automobile service station and a 24-hour convenience store. Is this just the 24 hours, is that something that 7-Eleven just does no matter what? Can you be open from 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock a.m.? So that's not open 24 hours? What is the need for the 24-hour? I did read on here how that it helps with the people who actually work shifts and where they get off late at night, like nurses, law enforcement, shift workers, but I don't see, Orangevale doesn't have those people. So I guess my concern is why the 24 hours? Why not 18 hours?
If you don't mind. Not every 7-Eleven is 24 hours. So to be honest with your answer, not everyone is 24 hours. And Brian mentioned, for example, because I think they parallel with the idea of alcohol, they do some dry stores. Quite frankly, the business model is based on 24 hours with the fuel, with the alcohol. Part of that is the idea of the expectation of the consumer that stops there. They have an expectation that there's things that they can get. Now we can focus on the alcohol and things of that nature, but really from the standpoint of Tom and operations, what they're looking for is they know that guy that stops in on his way to his buddies to see the game. He knows the store is probably going to have alcohol. Not all of them do, but they go and they have alcohol. What they do is they end up adding things to the retail bucket.
Right.
They get the chips, they get the such and such, and they're out the door, and it's a convenient stop, right? Quite frankly, this corner needs the 24 hours and the alcohol in order to make a profit at the end of the day, revenue. Those types of exceptions would be made in mostly a very well-populated, urban, dense walk-up area. I'm thinking of a non-alcohol that we did in San Jose, which is a downtown area. You're just going to have 8 to 10 to 12 times the amount of traffic going through, which can accommodate making those kind of concessions. Most likely cannot be accommodated here on the 24 hours.
Okay, because the alcohol didn't come into that. I'm just trying to figure out why 24 hours.
Yeah. So the 24 hours again is a business model from the standpoint of sales again, as people are in transit, and I think you'd probably be surprised at how many people. I know a lot of times we've been limited in areas where they say they don't want trucks, especially with proximity to residential, getting in at a certain hour. I do a lot of work down in the Bay. If I have a meeting at 8 a.m., I'm out of the house at 4 a.m. And if I want coffee and I'm going to pay somebody for coffee, they better be open to get the coffee. So we often focus on the 2 a.m. part, and I hear what you're saying, but it's just as valid on the 4 a.m. part. There are people that swing through those areas, which obviously 7-Eleven wouldn't keep the doors open if it wasn't profitable. They've got a mark and tell, they've got a client that are coming through in that traffic corridor.
Yeah, and there are just people that they either work late, they've got a graveyard shift or a swing shift. Police, law enforcement loves to stop at 7-Eleven after midnight. Just last week I had to be fishing with my son. I had to be up at 4 in the morning, and we had to go get sandwiches and chips and coffee. And where am I going to go? Oh yeah, so I ended up at the 7-Eleven. I represent them all the time, and that's usually when I go, is when I'm going fishing, because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's a customer group, and they do shop and they live in Orangevale, that will go to the store after 11 o'clock at night.
Have you done one of those traffic counters that, between these hours and these hours, this is how many cars go down the street?
We have done traffic studies, yeah, and I think that would kind of correlate with what Jesse was talking about, the traffic study that is going to happen when the school gets back in.
So what they'll do there is, to that very point, is what they'll do is they'll put down the strips, the drive strips, and then what they do is there's a number of manuals, but there's traffic engineering manuals, they get updated every year, and those people are continuously doing nationwide studies of all types of uses. They're very interesting, all the way down to hospitals of so many beds or whatever. But you'll find 15, 16 different distinctions of convenience store at so many square feet, convenience store over that square feet, convenience store with 2 gas pumps, with 4 gas pumps, etc. And they use all that to create now they get as close as they can to your project. Mm-hmm. They take the traffic that's coming through, and then they can make an analysis based on how many unique stops you'll get. Our hottest time is, no surprise, 4 to 6 p.m. And the second would be 7 to 9 a.m.
Okay, and that study has been done, or will be?
It will be done, and that will be made part of the report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're done with item 1. I think there's a couple of comments I want to make, is that the council, or at least this person on the council, we don't go out and recruit people to come in. We don't went and recruit 7-Eleven to come and do this. We hear a project that comes in front of us. If no project comes in front of us, then we don't have a meeting. If the project does come in front of us at 7-Eleven, then that's what we vote on. This was the only project that happened on that intersection where Wild Sports was. I had some communication with the previous owner of Wild Sports many years ago about what they were going to do. They had some issues in their life, and that has been for sale for a long time, Sharon. A long time. So,
It was a market before them.
and nobody it's a troublesome intersection. It needs help, and, it goes along with all of Orangevale. We need to have some flexibility in what is being built, and we need investment. I mean, that's plain and simple. We need to have some businesses come in that will help us out. And I think that this is a step to do that. That's where I'm at. So, I'm waiting for a motion.
The board is aware that that property is uncontaminated, right? We're done?
I'm sorry, we're done. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to vote.
Okay. What are we going to vote on? We have in front of us a use permit, a special development permit, and design review. We could have a motion to accept all three, or any one of those three items.
I make a motion to accept 2 and 3.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't know what 2 and 3 mean.
That'd be special
That's on the agenda.
and design review.
Oh. I'll second that on 2 and 3.
Okay, how do we do this now?
Okay, now we...
Okay, so we need Steph.
Clarify the motion for staff, please,
So
to accept 2 and 3.
They're saying they're accepting the motion for the special development permit and the design review, but not the use permit.
For 24 hours.
Is that what I'm saying?
So
If
what,
that's allowed.
I don't know. Is that allowed?
I will play the newbie card. I apologize. That's the case. 2 and 3 being moved.
so we'd rather you make a motion on
The whole
what
thing?
is presented
Okay.
of the project.
Perfect.
So either make a motion to approve what's in front of you or to deny it.
So I think that you actually have to withdraw your...
I withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the direction now is that we need to have a motion that approves all of item 1 on the agenda, or denies it all on item 1 on the agenda. Is that right?
I think what staff is asking for is because you have a use permit, and the use permit is for the automobile service station, and then it's also to have a 24-hour convenience store that requires the use permit to the board as well. So that's the project.
So we're voting on agenda number 1
Right.
together, all together.
Right.
So what you're saying, really, there's really 2 use permits? One is
We're running it because they're proposing the project as a whole. We're putting it as one and we're running it together.
Okay.
Is what all of them.
Yeah. So we're voting on the whole thing, or...
Minus the PCN. We're not to the PCN yet.
Okay. Everybody understand that? Good.
Still need a motion.
Okay, so I need another motion.
Well, in that case, I'll propose a motion to accept item number 1.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion's been presented and seconded on to accept item 1 on the agenda. That's the use permit and the special development permit and design review. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Wait, let's get that again.
Oh, nay, I guess.
So
2 no,
Yeah.
5 yes.
okay. So item 1 passes.
I know, I was going to call
All right.
Alex, but...
Now, we're not done.
Ow, okay.
We're now on item 2 of the agenda, which is really what?
Do you want a 101 class on, real quick on PCN? Okay, so when a liquor license is proposed to be purchased, and first of all, in Sacramento City and County, there's a moratorium on new liquor licenses. So if you want to have one, you need to buy an existing one from an existing store that's gone out of business, basically. One. Two, when you add a new license or you move it or you change the type, you need to get a letter of public convenience necessity. We refer to that as a PCN. And the sheriff must approve it, and then it must go to the Board of Supervisors also for approval. So the sheriff, what they do is they basically say, it's a bad location, it's too concentrated, we don't like it. They're going to recommend no, and you're dead. No thing even taking it to the board. If the sheriff is comfortable with the license and the location, then there is a standard list of conditions that no other liquor store that doesn't have a PCN or no other purveyor of beer and wine has these rules. So the rules are no singles, okay? And that's what's feeding the homeless around here is singles. No fortified wines, no 40s. Malt liquor must be in a factory 4-pack, and then the hours of sales cannot go beyond regular liquor store. In a restaurant, they can sell till 2 a.m. in the morning. We would be limited to stopping sales at 10 p.m. Okay, so basically you've got this whole series of conditions that make it a good operator, and particularly something that doesn't feed vagrants and the homeless. And in order to get your PCN, assuming the sheriff thinks it's okay, then you must agree to all these conditions. So that's what's in essence before you tonight is a decision on the PCN. It all runs simultaneous with the development review, the design review, the use permit. It kind of runs simultaneous, but it is a separate entitlement that comes to you and would also go to the Planning Commission and then ultimately to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody got that?
Yep.
Is it beer and wine only?
It's beer and wine only.
Yep.
Can I ask you one question? So you're going to quit beer and wine sales at 10 p.m. and begin again at 6 a.m.?
It is 6 a.m.
7 a.m.
So when you're going fishing at 4 o'clock, you can't bring get a 12-pack?
My 17-year-old son never dare ask that question. Yes.
So do we have a determination from the sheriff's department?
Yes.
You have the letter? Oh, we didn't get to see it. Where was that?
I have a quick question. Is the AM PM 24 hours as well?
Yeah.
Yes?
I do believe
And
so.
is there restriction on selling alcohol 10 p.m. as well?
It depends upon when they were permitted.
Okay.
If it was in the last 5 to 6 years, they likely have these conditions, but if it was prior to that, probably not. There's no restrictions other than 2 a.m.
Okay.
Is there an extra copy
I
that
have
staff
one.
could
Yeah, I
circulate?
don't have mine. I don't know.
I have attached to this thing.
It's like this.
So
It's attached to this, yeah.
we did, the sheriff's letter was an attachment to the CPAC's items
Yes.
for the PCN item.
I got it.
Yeah, and on here it states 7 a.m. through 10 p.m. each day of the week.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we probably have enough background on that, hopefully.
Didn't mean to go on too long.
That's fine, you did great. Why don't we just open it up for comments? Or you guys have questions?
Yeah, I just, for the applicants, could they describe how their staff enforces that 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.? Those 3 stacks or 4 stacks of refrigerator, are those doors locked? Is the product removed? What happens?
Yeah, the doors are locked. They all have individual locks on the top of the doors, and so those would be locked and unlocked.
Right, and then, so the staff that's working late, is that the franchisee, or is that just an employee? And is that employee going to be able to enforce it?
They're trained on all aspects of alcohol, the ABC license restrictions.
But so it's locked off, and there's a notice right on there.
Right.
No sale, I mean, there's got to be a big notice.
Of each door is what the, requirements are.
Are all your stores like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you predate it, just like he said, I mean, there are some 7-Elevens
that sell
predate all this and still have
They're
service.
grandfathered in, so they would.
Right, okay, got it.
Have that.
And then what about the breaking down to singles? How do you handle that? I mean, because that's forbidden, right?
Right.
Yes.
Sell singles, period.
Yeah, so I mean, a customer takes apart a package and comes
They
out.
can't
buy it.
They can't do it.
The only sort of Democles that 7-Eleven has under California franchise law, and franchise law is very, very difficult to get around from the standpoint that they have equal rights with major corporations, you understand why that could be, is 7-Eleven, its vice presidents, will be on the same liquor license that the franchisee will be on. They use the 21 card system, which, you've all seen this type of situation. When they get dinged, it goes right down to corporate headquarters in Dallas, Texas, and it is nasty business. So, yeah, sometimes it is difficult to get franchisees to clean the front stoop. I've seen it, I know what you're talking about. That is a non-starter, and Tom, you've seen that
And
firsthand.
if it happens twice, then they lose their ability to sell beer and wine. So it's not a 3-strike rule, it's a 2-strike rule.
Yeah.
One time you get a fine and you slap pretty hard, the second time you lose your,
Okay, so the corporation might pull that away.
Yeah, they do that.
Or remove the franchisee.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was under the impression this was a corporate store, that you qualified that, it is not, you did that in your opening statement.
It's owned by the corporation, but it will be franchised.
Oh, it is owned by the corporation.
Yes.
Do you require your franchisees to be working the property certain hours a week or not?
There's not a written standard, but we require them to be engaged in their business, not absent franchisees. So if there is a problem with the way their store is being run, then again, they could lose their franchise. And we do that quite often, if that happens.
Do they have special training for
Yes.
employees with this situation?
They have very thorough training. We have very thorough computerized training.
Especially as it relates to alcohol.
Before an employee even touches the cash register, they have to go through all these training modules on beer and wine sales, cigarette sales, and things of that nature. Yes, ma'am.
So your coolers are secured for the beer, but your wine is allowed to be room temperature, so what kind of
So
security?
we'll have special walk-up types of fixtures that either it'll be removed off the floor, it'll be on wheels, so we can take it off the floor, or it'll have a faceplate around it that will be locked and secured in place.
For the doors that need to be locked, have you investigated the possibility of putting magnetic locks on there to lock it without having to rely on anything?
I can't think of...
They do have a system where you can actually, in busy stores and places where maybe somebody's undermanned, you can hit a button underneath. I know that they have that system.
Yeah, to lock it or unlock it?
It's not typical, but it does both.
Yeah.
But at 10 o'clock, they can hit underneath there and it can go and...
Yeah, I know that system's available, but I don't think that's something that I've seen.
It's not standard.
It could be.
Yeah, it's not standard.
But I haven't seen it in our stores. Our stores are...
It's something that could be easily incorporated into this store?
We could certainly check into it. I'm not sure, again, the viability of a system like that. Our stores usually only have 4, 5 maximum doors for beer and wine.
There's 5 liquor
So,
stores, but why are liquor?
but that's something that we could certainly check into.
Yes, sir.
Item 10 goes where the sheriff is not only noticing, but the enforcement of no open container in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So how do you guys, if somebody's working the store, how can they enforce the parking lot?
We are out in the parking lot, cleaning the gas pumps, picking up litter, talking to any
So there's always 2 employees?
Yes, yes.
And they can always call the sheriff to come get that person who's likely getting in a
There's always
car.
2 workers, so one worker has the cash register covered and one can patrol the parking lot?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
It's no longer like the days old when one person would work. It's just not safe to do that, so we don't allow it in our stores.
Do you employ any third-party security company?
There are situations where that has gotten to that point where usually it's urban walk-up areas where we have a big issue with homeless people and things of that nature. But if a situation were to get out of hand and it was something that the city came to us, then we would explore that. But hopefully it wouldn't get to that particular situation. But yes, I mean, I see other areas around the community over in North Highlands and different areas like that where, there have been security, or situations where there will be temporary security until the problem is alleviated, things of that nature.
What does the employee do if there's loiterers? This says that loitering shall not be allowed, and so how does the employee enforce that?
We train our employees to professionally, talk to people to say, could you,
But if
leave
they
the premise,
refuse
then we'll call
to
the
disperse,
police.
then we call the police.
We're correct. That's typical protocol.
And so could you expand on your security system? So you mentioned there's only 6 cameras, 2 in the canopy, 2 on the outside of the building, and 2 interior? It's not-
2 on the outside of the building facing the canopy, 2 inside the building, standard package.
Okay.
You can
Unless the
make,
sheriff wants more,
yeah,
then we do.
you certainly can make that request. I mean, that can happen, but that's not standard package.
That's a severe lack of security camera in this day and age.
You can
almost
A lot of our franchisees even go the extra mile and they put their own security system in as well. And that typically is seen, in a lot of the stores.
Highly make the recommendation to increase that security overlay. 6 is not enough.
So they have 4.
Well, 4 is definitely not enough. There should be 4 on the canopy, probably 1 on each side of the building and 2 interior. With modern IP-based camera systems, that's not that big of a thing for video retention.
Okay, well, let's not get in here too much. All right, so any other comments back in here?
Are we opening it to the public? Are you?
No, we're still asking questions here. All right, so we're done asking questions. We're all done here asking questions?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, we're going to open it up again. First one on the list is the one who always has their hand up. Sharon.
Yeah, I really wish some of this documentation was available online with the agenda. I would have liked to have seen this ahead of time. That's beside the point.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Still has 2 minutes.
I like the idea that the sheriff says 10 PM. I can almost twist my arm, maybe live with that. At least it's better than 24 hours. I did like the automated timed locks, so that you're not fighting somebody at the door going, well, it's just 10:05. No, we're locking it. And so I would request that you add a condition to require automated timed locks to lock the refrigerated alcohol bins up. Other than that, I really wanted to deny it. But one of the things it says it can be denied is if it's in a high crime area, and I don't have crime statistics. And it says as determined by the county sheriffs. So the sheriff, I guess, is, in light of this letter, can't just cite its high crime area. But the one part that was spoken to earlier about the census of how many are located within the location. So there's none of that statistics provided, because it says that the ABC would need to deny it if the census tract that is over-concentrated with licenses located within this area. So I'm almost thinking, without that information, we don't know if this should be denied. We don't have accurate information to say to approve or deny. But this, again, would go forward to the Board of Supes, right, to approve this. So will that data be available at that meeting?
It goes forward to the Board of Supervisors. This is not in a high crime area, actually. So that, and the reason the PCN occurs and goes to the board under two scenarios. One, or a combination of the multiple. One is if it's a high crime area, or if it's an over-concentration, or if it's both. This doesn't fall into the high crime area, so it's an over-concentration for the census tract, which is why it is going to the board, for the PCN is going to the board, because it's more than the 3 that are determined to be kind of allowed in the area. There's 9, so it should be the 10. So that's determined to be an over-concentration. So then it goes to the Board of Supervisors to make their recommendation for the pending ABC license. Does that make sense?
Yes. So whether we say yes or no, the ABC could do their own thing?
Generally what happens is, I think if the local jurisdiction, like the board would recommend no, then ABC, I think, would lean heavily towards not, but ABC, I think, also has some appeal processes. So my understanding is if the local jurisdiction recommends no, then ABC usually does not go against the local jurisdiction.
Sharon, just to answer your question before.
Okay, well, so she said it's over the 3, and did I hear that there's 9?
Yes, you'll be 10.
And now this will be 10?
Yes.
It's the PCN is the vehicle that allows the over-concentration to be okay. It's the letter. Basically, it's saying there's a public reason, purpose, and benefit for it being allowed when it's over-concentrated in that census tract.
And that's where I really object. I think having 10, which is way over the 3, is not for the public convenience or necessity of the community. If we're going that far over what the ABC says is, reasonable amount, I think we're really going beyond public convenience and necessity with 10.
Again, I just wanted to talk after all this was over.
Oh, you want to talk about something else?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's been real fun, though.
I misunderstood you. Okay, Jerry, you're up.
I convinced myself to come down here to speak, but obviously it was futile. I could have stayed home and watched SmackDown. I think I would have had more fun myself. But it's nice to be around people once in a while. I oppose the liquor store license, the liquor license. I don't think we need any more liquor stores in downtown business district of Orangevale. I think we got enough. Just like the store, it's not needed. You guys are business oriented, you want it. Most of the community didn't want it. Being Red Orangevale happenings, I think 50-50 at the very most wanted it. Thank you.
Okay. Larry. Going once, Larry. It's like a Larry Crook or Cloak or Gone. Okay. That's it. Nobody else want to talk real quick?
I had 1 and 2.
I had 1 and 2.
Oh, see, I think you need to look at these as well.
I did.
Yeah, I wrote 1.
I wrote 1, but I'm just put 1 and 2 for myself.
That's 1. 1.
Let's just let them raise their hand.
There's Rick.
Yeah, I was 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's their bunch too. And
And
there's
there's
that.
Dan. Okay, they're together. Okay, you guys are, Rick, you're up.
I really am opposed to the liquor license, and unfortunately, that's what they need to make a profit. But you got two bars right next door to each other there. That's one problem. And you know that even though one thing I did like, and I thought was very conscientious, is cutting it off at 10. That I did agree with. But I really don't think that it would definitely impact a lot of the local businesses that are selling that one high profit item. But the other thing is that the one thing that definitely is true of all liquor stores, including the ones that are already there, is that you're increasing the risk of a drunk driver coming there. You know, I'm sorry, it's not just your store, it's all of them. And I feel that liquor stores, that's why they're kept at a minimum, because they are dangerous in that sense. So I just kind of feel, and it's not against your corporation or the liquor store at all, I just don't think that we need it. I think that we already actually, unfortunately, before you guys even bought the place, had a problem with some drunk driving over there associated with those bars. And one of them changed their operation a little bit, the boardwalk, to where they're now just doing concerts, but they were kind of a bar. And Jan's has definitely got a lot of winners, but in any case, it's just not a good idea in general. It's not an attack on you guys. Thank you.
They do have good karaoke though. You cannot take that away from
I would call that karaoke because I'm a musician and none of them can sing.
Sorry, Chairman, sorry. Had to get that out there. Been there? Oh, of course.
I've never been there. We must be missing out. It's been there.
I've never been there either.
And yes, I am against the liquor license because of the overconcentration in the area. And I do have a glass of wine almost every night, so I'm not against having maybe somebody can take a picture of this and we'll see what it ends up looking like. I am because, like I said, they don't ever turn up looking like what they show in the pictures. They do that to soften us up. That's the selling. I am disappointed in the 5 members of our board that went along with this, because I do think that if we were a little bit more patient, of course I'm 75, so I've learned a little patience along the way. If we were a little more patient, something better and more suited for our community would come. And I could be wrong.
Okay. Mercer, do you, no, I'm just kidding.
I did have one question.
Oh, all right.
So the boardwalk, I don't go to bars, I don't drink personally, but my concern is the boardwalk being there, and I'm not even sure what their hours are. So if someone can enlighten me as to their hours, because that would definitely coincide with the liquor stall.
They don't
2 blocks across.
They don't have hours.
They don't have hours.
They're not even open every day.
Yeah, I know they're not open every day.
So they do concerts, sometimes it's like on a Thursday, sometimes it's on a Friday.
And they usually start like 8 or 9, or they late, or?
It's just,
Usually it's at 9 o'clock,
Okay.
and
they're not.
and they serve alcohol.
So
And then they go until 2, but then they're done. So, and I don't know if they do that all the time. I mean,
Right.
times I've been there, that's kind of what they've done. And I admit I've been there, so.
I just want to say a lot of
Versus
those-
Jan's, I haven't been. Okay. Are we all done?
Are we making comment or no?
We have no more comments here. Do we have comments, questions? Other than that, let's close it and...
We have a comment.
You have a comment?
So, or a question. If we do not approve the liquor license, then they will not build, correct?
Correct.
Like they have to have it.
Correct.
Well, wait, if we don't approve the liquor license, it would still keep moving forward? It would speak, and the county supervisors would just hear that is what the Orangevale CPAC has.
They would just hear our recommendation. They'll really make the decision. Yeah.
So you are making a recommendation to ultimately the Board of Supervisors on this item?
like to make a comment. I unfortunately have issue with the overconcentration as well. It's nothing against the business. To kind of dovetail into earlier, I appreciate development, but I think it's the wrong development, and I understand the liquor license for that, but I think the over-concentration, knowing it's directly in the area, is just too high. So I just wanted to comment on that.
The problem that we have with that is we don't really know what the census tract looks like that ABC is looking at. So when we say it's over populated, we just don't know what it looks like. It could be all the way down to Walmart, and they could all be on the street, or they could be spread out in different places. That's the problem we've always had with ABC and looking at alcohol, the liquor store at Madison and Maine. That's where we had the big fight with ABC, and they basically said it's overpopulated, but that's okay because it fits right there. It's not overpopulated in that section.
You have the tools to go on to look at the census tracts and figure out how to do all that? I'd be happy to give you my card. Have you done it before?
I've tried.
Online? I'd be happy to give all of you a tutorial or just write some up in an email so you can look for these things on your own outside of this job or whatever, because they don't make it easy, I agree. And it's a tool that's supposed to be out there. I don't think they do a great job of putting all the pieces together. So I'd be happy to type something up if people be interested in that.
Fine, you can send it to us and that would be great.
Send it to the CPAC.
Do you have the general boundaries of the census tract? So it's obviously the south side of Greenback, east to Madison, west to Hazel, and then south to Madison again.
So major commercial corridors, that's why you've got so many.
Yeah, it's all commercial.
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment that, we're here as representatives of the community, so I don't think it matters so much whether technically there's over-concentration by the ABC. It's more our sense of the community, and do we feel there's too many liquor outlets in our community, and that's, I think, been expressed by commenters here and members of the board. I think this is, I personally probably would not be, I'm not thrilled about more liquor outlets. I definitely am sympathetic to that viewpoint. However, I think no one's talking about the alternative of allowing an already dilapidated intersection right in the heart of Orangevale, I venture to say perhaps the most dilapidated intersection, become even more so through nothing happening. And so, no, is the 7-Eleven my dream for that section? But I look around and I go, there's nobody else investing. The people that currently have businesses there don't seem to be investing. I'm not blaming them, they may not be in a position to. But I think that's what we need to keep in mind. So,
He wants to say something in the back. Gentlemen.
No, we're closed, sorry.
Does anybody know that amount of liquor store or beer and wine in the area? I think there's around 25 of them, from Hazel to Madison. So just simple English, without using census tract and all that.
It's just drive down the street.
Yeah, it's really going to be easy to say that.
Slowly.
You're around 25, 30 places out there. It's simple English. There's no calculation for that.
But in order for us to grow, we need to do something.
I just have one comment.
Keep it real simple.
All right.
That's dangerous for the community.
Go ahead.
All right, my comment is, I think about the concentration that they have here, and you know that I brought that up initially with the 3 and the 9 and so forth. But then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, Winco is open 24 hours a day. I don't know if they're limited to selling just between 7 and 10. But if they're not, they can go in there and buy cases of beer.
Right.
Yeah.
They do have limited hours.
Do they?
Yeah, they close off their alcohol at 10 p.m.
Oh, at 10 p.m. also?
Because they close off their customer service and they lock the liquor cabinet in the back at 10 p.m.
Well, that's the one section. Can they still buy because they have beer and other stuff
The
out?
manager told me before 10 p.m. they cut off.
Okay, yeah. So,
Okay. So, I'm waiting for a motion here.
Hopefully I can
Hello.
Okay, I am going to move that we recommend item 2 on our agenda, which would, I'm having trouble putting it in.
Just say that.
Item 2, okay?
Does that work?
You recommend
Okay.
for it to go, or yes?
Recommended
Yes or no?
approval of item 2?
Approval, yes.
Okay.
Is that with the sheriff's conditions?
Well, we don't have a choice
Yes,
about that.
because
No,
that's
those
We don't
part
have
of
a
the
choice
public
about that.
convenience and necessity letter.
Right, those are going to be
It's
carried
packaged.
forward.
Yeah, it's only with the,
Yeah.
otherwise the sheriff denies and it wouldn't even be here, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Are we recommending that the conditions of the sheriff's, are we hanging our hat on these conditions?
Yes.
Those are the-
And so are we. We've already agreed to them.
Okay,
So,
so motion is made.
your second?
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second's been made. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed?
Nay.
2
2.
to 5. 0 abstains, 0 absent.
Thank you, everybody. We have, I believe we have one item, one public comment. No, you. All right, thank you very much. We're all done with items 1 and 2. So if you're here, then adios.
Do you have to do this, or do they do it?
Thank you, council members.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You seemed a little flustered there, and maybe we'll make sure they got it right. Do you want to look at this, just in case, slide? Sue, motion.
Okay, guys,
Star second.
we have to have you go outside if you're gonna, if you're done, all right? We still have some business left to do. This is under public comment now, so this is not on the agenda. This is not an agenda item, so you have, the way this works is we're just gonna listen to what you talk about, and you're gonna auction off the dog, is that what it is? Yeah. Okay. And then,
That's really
well,
it.
we can't really comment too much on it because it's not a published agenda.
That's right.
Okay?
And it's mainly just a comment, and I just want to pose a question here. I have a property, 8974 Greenback Lane. This is the, used to be Future Plastering. It is now a landscape contractor that has it. It's right in between the auto repair place and the horse.
It's across
Yeah,
from
Feast store.
Walmart?
Yeah,
Okay.
Cypress.
It's a landscape?
Yeah, it's Cypress Landscape.
Yes, now, this property has not had a phase 2. You know what all phase 2 means? Phase 1 is you kind of take a look at it and say, we think that there's stuff in the ground that you ought to get out. And if they think there isn't, usually you can go right on your stuff. If they think there probably is, they recommend a phase 2, which is whether they drill, that kind of thing. I don't know, haven't had a phase 2, but I suspect there is perk in the ground. Now what that means is that I cannot get a loan on that property. So therefore, I can't really do anything to that property other than what's there. And I had, quite a while back, sent a request to the county about doing a change of use for that property. And they said I had to provide elevations and all kinds of things. And I said, what about just photographs? Because I'm not going to change how it looks. Maybe it gets painted, but I'm not going to be adding anything because, for one, I can't afford to. Because they make me spend $1 million to clean it up first. So it's just going to be the same property. A couple pictures. Maybe if I tell them I'm going to do a little landscaping around there, that should be good enough. It just blows my mind that I got to go through having elevations drawn for something that's not going to change in a photo is way better than an elevation, because it's what it actually looks like and will look like. Now I know what the code says for the county. I know the county requires it, and it required I don't know, city council, everybody voting like mad, but I would think that a board like this could make a recommendation to allow somebody to come here with just asking a question about how do you informally feel about a change of use on this piece of property. And I can understand you might want to say, well, okay, it's ugly, and in order to make it a little nicer, maybe a few trees and plants, I can see that kind of thing. But from the standpoint of just doing this, now this is a landscape contractor back there. Ugly, the people with the property next door said when it's sold and the plastering company is no longer back there, they were pleased to see something else going to happen. Now they're not real happy with the landscape contractor. The property to the right of it, if you're looking at it from the street, has a auto repair shop, and behind him is a landscape contractor as well. So you're not going to get a serious change. In other words, nobody's going to come in there and put a PF chains. Okay? Right. That's not going to happen. So, we agree on that.
I would love that, but.
So, I mean, it just seems to me like maybe you can make some recommendations to the county that, as far as Orangevale is concerned, because first I approached this idea about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And when I was told that I had to do all this stuff, I said, I'll put it on the back burner. I'm not going to bother with it, so I didn't do it.
Did you already have it tested?
I have not, well, I'll tell you what he did do. There was a dry cleaner in it.
Okay,
So,
that's why.
Yeah.
That's why.
And I did buy it with an LLC. But they drilled some holes in the concrete, and they found that there is some perk underneath the concrete that tends to run where they think the sewer line was. So it might just be there, it might not just be there. I don't know. So what we did is we covered with, I spent $4,600 for a floor coating that would cover that thing up so that nothing comes through it, nothing. And then I had it tested afterwards to make sure there's nothing coming up through the building, so that anybody leasing the building would be safe. They did some air tests outside, just nothing in the air outside. In fact, there's more harmful stuff just coming from the cars going up and down Greenback than there's some. But there could be something in the ground. And you know how that stuff works. I mean, that could just be brutal. And so, I mean, I just wanted to change the use because we had an offer from people to do a couple of different things. One of them being car sales, which is probably, again, not a PF Chang's, not something you really want there necessarily. But I'll tell you, it's better than what's there from the standpoint of what the whole thing's going to look like. And I just, if I come up here and I said, well, I'd like to put car sales, everybody, oh, geez, that's a horrible idea. I wouldn't try, okay? It just saved me some effort. And it's taken me now a year and a half to get back here, just to, and I just think it's a shame that we have to go through the process of having somebody draw up elevations for a building that's already there, that a photograph is better than any elevations you can possibly draw. It just is. Anyway, so that was my comment. I know you can't tell me, yeah, go ahead and do what you want to do. I know you can't do that. But I just like to see if somehow the whole process, I mean, we should be looking for ways to make the streamline these things. Sitting and listening to all the stuff that went on here earlier tonight, I was actually kind of impressed by all of the concerns that came up and how they were dealt with and all that stuff, and that's all good. And so you're talking a major change in use for that piece of property and a building being built, and I understand that. But in my case, and I'm sure a lot of those little buildings along there, I don't know, I just think it slows down development when you put this many barriers in front of people to do it. And I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just asking to be able to officially come in here with just an application and say, do you mind if I change my use from a landscape architect to car sales? That should be fairly simple. That's my comment.
I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but I can't help it. What I suggest you do is you get with the chamber and write me an email and come up with a topic, and we'll put it on the agenda. And we can discuss it then in front of the council.
Whoever at the county
can respond to it, and we can come and talk about it and come up with the next step, whatever that next step is. And see how we can make things work better, or at least work. Seems like me, it's not even working. So,
This isn't just for my benefit, because it's probably easier for me just to draw this.
No, I think it's
through this whole process. But
there's a lot of people, a lot of business owners, from what I heard in the last couple of months, that have very similar situations. So they want to do something, but they, it's a big ticket item for them, so.
Just to find out if you can, first of all, it's like a $14,000 or $15,000 application fee to change the use to car sales. And there's no guarantee you're going to get it, and you're out that money if you don't get it. It's a pretty good return if you do get it, but you shell out that money and then you have to do all this stuff too. Just seems a little more. Okay.
Well, get with them and see if you can get some consensus on the business side of it, and then we can, ship me a thing, we'll put it on the agenda. That way we can talk about it, otherwise the county can't talk about it, we can't really talk about it.
Now, that's the Orangevale Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
Now, is the glove, this the glove thing? Because I'm going to the glove meeting on Friday.
They're in the back.
That's Brad back there.
Yeah, go talk to Brad.
I'll go talk to Brad. Is Brad? Okay.
Brad's the one with the beard that doesn't have the hat on.
So have your grandkids do a design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go, there's my drawing.
Okay.
Thank you for what.
All right, we are.
I agree with your comment. My experience is that if you build it, other people will build things on other corners there.
Yeah.
But, everybody's looking at that corner going, I don't want to be the first one there.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping anyway.
Yeah.
We're done. Thank you, guys, everybody.
Can you tell me more about the beacon? I was involved in the marketplace with Kathy Lynn.
Yeah.
Carpenter. Right.